are again, folks. Welcome back to another Iceberg video. As with any follow-up Iceberg video, there's always the "oh shit, I fucked up" video, but we're not going to be doing that. There are a few things that I will clarify that I do see often in the comments. But first, before I do that, thank you to everyone that's watching the Iceberg video. I really appreciate seeing comments like, "oh, you deserve more subscribers," or, just some genuinely nice comments. I'm glad some people enjoy my Iceberg videos, and I do hope you enjoy this one. And if you enjoy both of these Iceberg videos, you may enjoy this one video that I'm working on. If you're a fan of Snake Career or fairly long analytic videos, then you'll enjoy this one that I'm making on a certain Pokemon franchise. Anyhow, as far as the complaints go, I see mainly two. The first complaint that I see is that I was shit-talking the YouTuber that was aforementioned in the video. Let me be perfectly clear, this is not the case. I did not have any intentions to shit-talk him, and this video was not a personal attack against him or whatever some people seem to believe. The only Zelda Iceberg video at the time was his, and I'm sorry, but I just did not like it. I wouldn't go as far as saying it's cringe like some other people in the comments, but it just wasn't that enjoyable, and I thought Zelda deserved better. I'm not claiming that my video is better than his, and I'm not claiming that he's a bad YouTuber, but I'm sorry, there's a fair amount of people, including myself, that did not like his video. The second thing that I see a lot of the comments, and yes, this is a fault on my end, are the mispronunciations. I'm really sorry, I can't read that well, so a lot of the times I will mispronunciate a lot of things, so stuff like Incan and Ikana, just stuff like that. I really do apologize. I personally did not mean to mispronunciate those terms. Hopefully I did it better in this video, but yeah, I really do apologize about that. Also, during the making of this video, a new Castlevania Iceberg was made, and I'm not going to incorporate it in this video because that's just a lot more work. I snuck in like a topic or two, so that'll hopefully make the video a little bit longer, but this is going to be a fairly short Iceberg video going over the Castlevania franchise. Castlevania is just a phenomenal franchise with a load of great games, and there just so happens to be an Iceberg that has not been covered yet. This one's relatively smaller compared to most Icebergs, so I'll be doing most of the topics seen on this list. As far as my own knowledge and research goes, you'll be seeing this health bar in the top left corner of the video. Full health means I can faithfully explain the topic to you with full understanding, and I'm sure you know where this is going. With that said, why don't we take a dive into the Castlevania Iceberg? Playable Richter in Symphony of the Night. After completion of Symphony of the Night and getting the good ending, players can play the game a second time as the aforementioned Richter Belmont. Richter plays identically to his installment in the franchise, Castlevania Rondo of Blood. Music in Japanese version of Castlevania 3. During the development of Castlevania 3, the Famicom used the latest sound chip known as the VRC6. This sound chip provides more channels for composers to use and sounds far better than the chip used in the Western release known as the 2A03. Fake names in the credits. This is probably referring to the credits in Castlevania 1, where for whatever reason they use silly fake names in the end of the credits.
Mick Shrek's Green Stranger? Is this supposed to be funny? That's like if I took the name Steven Spielberg and called him Steven Gielberg. Like, that's not funny, that's kindergarten level.
Interestingly, this actually was intentional. Back in 1986, all game designers working for Konami were forbidden to attach their actual name to any project. This was to prevent asking for raises and kept rival companies from stealing their talent. Trevor, Sypha, and Grant boss battle in Symphony of the Night. As a tiny nod to Castlevania 3, Alucard must fight evil clones of the friends he once sided with to kill Dracula. This is a pretty cool fight, though this is the only nod to Castlevania 3 you'll see in this game. PS1 Black Disc. Not sure what this is referring to, because this doesn't relate to Castlevania at all. If I had to guess, this is referring to the thought process Sony had, in which by coating the disc in black transparent film after burning them, it would make piracy more difficult. Obviously, this wasn't the case, and it's been noted that a small percentage of disk drives had trouble ripping a PS1 disc back in the day, but ultimately this form of anti-piracy did not work. Different versions of Castlevania Bloodlines. There's some noticeable differences between the different releases of Castlevania Bloodlines. Thanks to the cutting room floor, we can see that Eric Lecard was made to look more manly, blood has been removed from the European version, and even the title was changed from Castlevania Bloodlines to Castlevania: The New Generation. And truth be told, that's a pretty fitting title considering that all the blood was removed from the game in the European version. Haunted Castle. Haunted Castle was an arcade-only release of Castlevania. It's supposedly an adaptation of the original Castlevania, but not a direct port. There are no similarities between each game. In fact, the main character shares no resemblances to Simon Belmont. Sonia Belmont is not canon. First off, if you haven't had any interest in playing Castlevania, I highly recommend at least investing in the lore because it is so well written. There's a great video series by GamerThumb TV going over the Castlevania timeline. In it, you'll learn that in said timeline, Castlevania Legends has been taken out and not considered canon. The main reason behind this is because Sonia ends up marrying Alucard and has a son named Trevor, and if you know your Castlevania lore, you can see where the inconsistencies lie. Grant is missing from Netflix. Netflix's Castlevania is pretty fucking good, for the most part. A lot of fans were wondering why the inclusion of Grant was missing from the television series. According to the producer, he's technically in the world, he just hasn't been shown to the public yet. 8-bit Simon Belmont in Harmony of Dissonance. By inputting a code at the Konami screen in the beginning of the Game Boy game Harmony of Dissonance, you unlock Boss Rush mode. In said game mode, you can play as 8-bit Simon Belmont, battling the same bosses you fought throughout the game. Beta Bloodlines screenshots. Once more, thanks to the cutting room floor, we're able to see some beta screenshots from the Genesis game Castlevania Bloodlines. Nothing too noteworthy to add other than some graphical changes. Castlevania Judgment designs. In the Wii game Castlevania Judgment, it takes a very different approach from traditional Castlevania games. It's not a side-scroller or a Metrovania, it's a fighting game. That's a pretty cool concept that I approve of, and honestly any attention Shinoa can get is great in my book, but unfortunately the game wasn't really that good. Interestingly enough, the art design was done by the same artist who created Death Note, and you can very much see the similarities. Ayami Kojima. This is the very amazingly self-taught artist that designed most of the artwork for the franchise. If you're a fan of gothic horror and beautifully painted pieces, you'll definitely get a kick out of her artwork for the Castlevania franchise. Super Castlevania 4 Beta. A video showcasing beta screenshots and gameplay for the Super Nintendo game Castlevania 4 was posted on YouTube, surprisingly not too long ago. Some of the noteworthy differences were there being a 2-player mode, a different HUD reminiscent of the NES games, level select, and different AI patterns. Simon Belmont 3. Simon Belmont 3 is a character for Konami's YY series. This character is a reference to Simon Belmont from Castlevania. Konami's YY series is essentially gambling games such as poker or racing, with familiar mascots, Castlevania being one of them. Castlevania the Movie. This was a film based on the Castlevania franchise that was to be directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, though later in development it was given to James Wan. A movie poster has been made, however since 2012 no official information about the movie has been communicated, meaning it's most likely cancelled. Fun fact though, in The Conjuring 2, one of the animatronics was actually going to be used for the Castlevania movie. Symphony of the Night Sega Saturn version. This version of Symphony of the Night was only released in Japan and was more of an update rather than a port of the game. In addition to the entire original Symphony of the Night, it included new stages, music, enemies, and items that were absent in the Sony versions, plus a playable version of Maria. It's also possible to play as Richter or Maria from the beginning of the game without having to do extra efforts to unlock them. Castlevania Resurrection. Cancelled in March of 2000, this game was intended to be made for the short-lived Sega Dreamcast console. This would also be the third Castlevania game at the time to enter the 3D realm. The game was to focus on Sonia Belmont and a new character, Victor Belmont, an 1800s vampire hunter who had abandoned his lineage. The story is set in 1666, directly before Simon Belmont's adventure in the original Castlevania. Castlevania Bloodlines is a sequel to Bram Stoker's Dracula. Believe it or not, this is actually true. Castlevania takes part in Bram Stoker Dracula's universe. It's not entirely known what the relationship is between the Morrises and the Belmont clan. However, the vampire killer was entrusted to the Morris family, and Quincy Morris's son John Morris was entrusted with the whip. John Morris would later have a son named Jonathan Morris, who would once again be entrusted with the vampire killer in Castlevania Portrait of Ruin. Eric Lecarde is related to Alucard. This is entirely false, since Eric Lecarde is not a vampire, nor was he part of Dracula's bloodline. However, during the time period of Bloodlines, it is noted that Alucard had entrusted the Lecarde family with a magical spear he had created to complement and assist the vampire killer in an era with no Belmonts, and it was properly named the Alucard Spear. Chrysogrim is based on the Bible. I have no idea what this is referring to. Reading the description of Chrysogrim, there's nothing. I actually messaged the creator of the Iceberg, and honestly, he did say that this was just made up, as well as some other stuff like an Atari Lynx port of Castlevania Adventures, so this one's probably just fake. English dub of Symphony of the Night was made by porn actors. Yeah, I don't think so. Going over each actor's IMDb page, and yes, looking up their names on porn websites, none of them were featured under any kind of pornographic movie. This might just be a joke saying that the voice acting is so bad that it's similar to porn star acting, and even the creator of the Iceberg said that this was just a nod to the succubus in the game that sounded like a porn actress. Here's a bit of a fun fact: a lot of the same actors would go on to voice in the Shenmue franchise. Weird. Shaman King, Master of Spirits is a sequel to Aria of Sorrow. This is a pretty interesting take. I can see why someone would say this because Shaman King, Master of Spirits was released on the Game Boy and is almost identical to Aria of Sorrow, down to all the mechanics. This game was most likely built on Aria of Sorrow's engine. However, it's really not a sequel to Aria of Sorrow. Come on. There's really no other connections other than it being almost identical to Aria of Sorrow in terms of gameplay. Malice is Walter. For those of you unfamiliar, Walter was the very first vampire before Dracula that encountered the Belmonts. Walter was vanquished by Leon Belmont, and Leon's friend Matthias turned into the Dracula we all know. So I'm not sure where the theory comes in where Malice is Walter. There's really no correlation to him resembling or being Walter, and in fact another main character in the Castlevania franchise, Soma Cruz, is the reincarnation of Dracula. So by going off this logic, are we to assume that Soma is a reincarnation of Walter? It doesn't really make much sense, though if anyone has any proof or can explain it better, please explain in the comments down below. Shanoa is related to Hector. I find this very interesting, but there's not really much information regarding this point on the Iceberg. Shanoa is an orphan, and orphans don't typically have last names. On that note as well, Albus is also an orphan and he has no surname either. Based on this fact alone, there's really no way to confirm if Shanoa is related to Hector. Although one user does theorize that considering Shanoa absorbed the blood of the people in Weigel, who are all descendants of Belmonts, one could argue that she could now take the Belmont name as her own. What is a Man comes from the French book Anti-Memoirs. I'm sure everyone's familiar with this famous scene from Castlevania
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. But enough talk. How about you?
What you may not know is that this line was taken from the French book Anti-Memoirs. If you search online for a PDF of this book, you'll find that yes, the famous quote from Castlevania was actually used in the book Anti-Memoirs. Evil Sonic Unicorn. In June of 1993, an issue of Mega Drive Fan was published, which usually focused on Sega Genesis news. In this issue, a contest was held to design enemies and traps for the upcoming game, Castlevania Bloodlines. There were a lot of interesting results, and in fact, some of these designs would be used in the game. However, one design, Evil Sonic Unicorn, was left unused. I don't really have an outro written, so thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, please leave it in the comments down below. Also, if you enjoyed this video or enjoyed these informative videos, be sure to look out for my mystery dungeon video that will come out at some point. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.